Are we so excited? Can we be more excited? This is so exciting. I just, it's like Dove and Raven, we are doing it. This is
Yeah.
absolutely our evening. And it's fun that it's a holiday here so that we can celebrate lots of levels of the story that we've actually been participating in. The Juneteenth is actually a celebration that comes out of Texas because of Galveston. And so I've actually known it since college because I was in Houston. It's complicated, but we are here always to tell you the story of the spice and the slaves and how that dragon seduced everyone into participating in that particular activity. So welcome. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. I'm still on Australian time, so figuring out which Monday was a fun exercise. Um
Yeah, you were ready to do this
I
last
got,
night and you're like, I'm here. We're like, why?
I was like
She's
24 hours in advance. I thought, yeah, this is okay. And cricket's no one's here yet. Oh, too excited. I'm really happy that we get to talk to everybody who's joining us today. This is a this is a kind of celebration of 2 years of work. We've been in in a chrysalis with Draco Alchemicus all together. Kind of um, having this little metamorphosis behind the scenes and creating this world and all of these characters and figuring out all of the elements that we want to put into the story. So yeah, it's been quite a wild ride.
yeah.
Quiet on the outside and really amazing on the inside. I'm very excited to be able to share it with everybody soon.
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like so we've been teasing everyone with bits of it, right? Here's some of the pictures,
Mhm.
and here we have. Check out on the Mosaic Arc on the Fencing Barrett Prayer YouTube channel the reading that we have from stanzas 1 through 20 by Captain Zodiac, right? It's really magnificent.
Mm.
We're going to have tonight. I mean, this is we're in here for the long haul, right? We're driving across the country. Well, Kilts is already on the other side of the world, but in guest time, we're actually driving across the country from Florida to the Midwest to all the way over to the Pacific, and it's just like the guests are staggered by so that everybody starts at the same time, but on a different time zone. it's it's like the railroad.
Yep.
Creating the time for the stream tonight in the Mosaic Arc. Um, uh, Now I forgot what I was doing. Oh yes, that our book is amazing, and we really hope it
Yeah.
helps everyone with what we finally. I mean, one of our guests tonight was brainstorming with me the other night, and he's like, "What is your book about?" I was like, "Well, it's a fairy story. Okay, we got that far, right? We've written you a fairy story. We're retelling the greatest fairy story in the English language." The Fairy Queen, right? And when we say the greatest, it's like books, doorstop level of greatest because Spencer wrote a very fat book. Ours is not going to be quite that fat, but it's of course modeled on the opening part of his story where the Red Cross Knight fights the dragon. And so, our story is obviously about fighting a dragon. So in fact, it's a retelling of the greatest English story, the St. George and the Dragon of sorts. But it's also, as we're going to learn from our guest tonight, participating in this world of story and retelling and cultural reappropriation. One of our guests is eager to talk to us about how we counter appropriate our stories back into the culture. I've got some cooking going on in the background. I've got culture of various sorts. We're starting earlier tonight, so we're gonna like bang into all sorts of other schedules that we're not used to having to weave around. Anyway, so we need to figure out how to explain to you better why we think that this retelling is important and have recognized that it's all about choosing your poison, right? That's our Draco
Mhm.
Alchemicus. We've been sort of bantering around. It's like, what does that title mean? It sounds like a magic spell. It sounds like Latin. It's like complicated doctor speak. And we're like, yeah, because that's the
Yeah.
problem, right? That's the way the medical and scientific establishment has tricked everybody into taking stuff that's actually not good for them. It's snake
Yep.
oil, boys and girls, right? And if we actually just called our story Snake Oil, well, you'd see right through it, right? And likewise, if if big pharma would actually tell us what they're giving us in all of their medicines, you probably would have second thoughts. And we'd like to help you in cultural terms, in spiritual terms, in sort of artistic terms, to learn to see through that mystification. There, we're getting better at the pitch, I hope.
Yes.
If you've been wondering why we keep talking about mosaics and sailing and scripture and demons and the internet and what else do we do? Media studies and everything. It's all wrapped up in this prime illusion of the sort of word crafting. And the word crafting primarily of science has been in Latin, if you think about it, right? It's Homo sapiens, it's DRACO ALCHEMICUS, it's fancy words for the same plants that go into aspirin. I didn't memorize those.
All those really controversial horse paste.
Those, yes.
The really controversial malarial pills that suddenly were bad when before they were good. So it's always our focus is evil rebranding itself as a cure, but we want to have everybody thinking about how the potions are branded and presented on the marketplace, and it could be anything as obvious as a pharmaceutical, or it could be something which is rebranded as a food product, or on different levels, different kinds of merchandise as well.
Right. So, all of this evil rebranding itself as cure. So that if we called it snake oil, you'd already be cautious, right? But if we say DRACO ALCHEMICUS, it sounds like, some kind of mystical experience. And that is our point, that the dragon does that. The dragon, seduces you into believing in it, that it has high wisdom and power and the ability to transform the world. And yet it's a trap. But there's another side of what we're working on, is that we want you to understand why you said yes, right? If we say, here's this potion that will give you knowledge and guarantee that you win at the horse races, will you take it? Learn to discern, right? It's that kind of the temptation that is always offered to us of the knowledge of good and evil. It's this knowledge. It's like if it comes off of the tree and it says, this will be a guarantee for you, you're going to be, if you take this medicine, you will not get sick. How many times have you heard that?
Before the public service announcement that if you have taken this medicine in the last 3 to 5 years, please contact us immediately.
Right.
You may be missing several limbs.
Right. Yeah. So the Surgeon General's warning, right? Yeah. So this is the Surgeon General's warning on our poem is, this book will make you smarter.
Yes. We're aiming for positive side effects, and
yes, we could the most positive side effect of all, contemplative elevation. So we're going for we're going for heavenly Jerusalem here, definitely.
Yes. The kind of the main thing that we've done with the title DRACO ALCHEMICUS too is that it really does demonstrate the illusory seduction of claiming something is exclusive, in being sold to people. This kind of marketing manipulation that the culture has kind of become more and more about attaining something that's luxurious and something that's exclusive, and we wanted to tap into that as well, because a big part of the setting of the world that we've built in DRACO ALCHEMICUS is that it is this hyper luxurious, exclusive kind of world where everybody's trying to climb social pyramids. They want to attain glamour and status and this kind of mirage of of beauty and power and all of these kinds of things. So it had to be proposed in a way that would make everybody realize that most of the time what's going on when we're offered these solutions.
The potions, the spirits. We say it's distilling, discerning spirits, right? And I can explain that, but you should keep going because this is good.
Yeah, I mean, discerning the spirits, like the elixirs of whatever were offered as cures for various things that ail you. I mean, the solutions are always proposed as desirable and exclusive. It's the pressure of there's only one of this, you have to take it, or there isn't much of this, therefore it's necessary that you decide right now. It's like increases the buyer pressure of realizing, I may not ever have this opportunity again, so I have to take it now while I've got it. What are the consequences if I don't buy in here? So we've got that kind of pressure in the first act in the casino, where everybody's placing bets and they need to figure out their stats and their wages really quickly, because otherwise you miss the race, you miss the winnings. And so we kind of plug into how people are pressurized to participate in this alchemical exchanges.
Yes, we do recognize the irony of setting up a Kickstarter to help with this.
Yeah.
and the sort of the experience of well, I mean, I'm a fencer, right? And so I'm gonna go into anything with this desire to like figure the game out and go in and get the touches, and we're gonna run the clock out and do everything that we can to find the solution. But I mean, and it's interesting because there is a positive element to that of competition, which I think we haven't talked about on stream much. We should probably do one of those, where if you're put under stress, you're tested, right? And we recognize that the testing and the competition actually matters. I mean, one of the things that we're frustrated with culturally is, everyone's worrying about, this is the opposite side of, here, take this potion, you will never be stressed. You will never be in competition. You will never have difficult decisions to make. Everything will be sort of cloudy, floating clouds and comfort and chocolates and no discomfort, right? And we need to be we need that stress and to be put in discomfort to actually learn, right? There's I mean, you could say to transform and grow and things like that, but it's fundamentally that I saw meme the other day. It was saying, things I learned from, school, things I learned from this, things I learned from making mistakes, right? It's like, so obviously our the stacks of books, right? That our characters are going to have to make mistakes and be put through trials. And in that sense, it is a kind of game, right? We've set it up as a casino gambling game, and they're invited into this sort of treasure hunt and storytelling competition, and it's going to end up in a maze and carnival and things like that. They have to be put under stress, because how else are you tested? So I think it's like we're the time pressure of you must, limited supplies, you must do this now, which is one of the sort of mysteries that we're always trying to point to, is the goods are usually twinned with their sort of the obverse and reverse are part of the same rival, this Girardian rivalry, right? Competition in itself can train you, but it can also be used to suck you into covetousness and envy and a murderous competition, as opposed to a fruitful competition, one that trains you.
Yeah, that's the double-edged sword of the experience of being in competition, because if you're never competing, you're never growing. You're never going to stretch yourself. But as soon as you're in competition, you're comparing.
Yep.
And in that comparison, then you're faced with the differences and similarities, and that can be a very, it seems really simple, but it can be very catalytic kind of moment to realize your own shortcomings, and then to have to look at others that you are. Oh, we got Chuck.
Okay, wait. So we have our first guest waiting for us. We carry on with your thought.
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of like this this moment where you're in comparison, and then there's an evaluation, and it's difficult because people are going to experience envy,
Right.
And this starts a completely different mechanism. Instead of growth, it's about jealousy.
Right.
It's a kind of I don't know.
We've been saying this.
Humbling this.
No. We've been saying this. Envy is a hell of a drug, right? This is the light. It's like we're working from the DRACO ALCHEMICUS is the mystification of the science and the magical thinking of the science and the illusions that kind of deceptive knowledge casts that persuade you. Oh, look, I have the solution here. But the other thing is it's actually our own sins that get us caught in those temptations, that you get brought in by the promise of power, the promise of beating your rival, the promise of, a lot of what we're working on is this, what we call it, Girardian mimesis, a fancy word for it. Mimesis is Greek representation or yeah, there's a really great book called The Mimesis by Eric Auerbach on the representation of reality, which I will tell you about at length if we get get to that. But that we are trying to show the way in which the desire for the thing, if you're desiring the thing and you're in healthy competition, you're looking for the beauty, right? You're aiming to compete for excellence and truth and beautiful craft, right? Whereas if you start looking at your competitor, you end up in that murderous rivalry that says, I want to kill him and I don't care whether that beautiful thing exists anymore. I'm more interested in, taking out this other person, woman or man, who was, in competition with me. And that we're going to be showing that level, right? Both from the external mystifications of the culture to the internal reasons that those work, right? It's like the Matthias Desmond has talked about mass formation and anxiety and such, and from my perspective, he's done that solely from kind of exterior situation where we're going inside the psyche. This is an allegory of training in virtue, which is also what the Fairy Queen, our model, is, but it's an allegory of training in virtue that takes you inside your own temptations.
Yeah, it's the shift of a mentality from wanting opposition to viewing opposition as enemy. Very different things. Because an opponent trains you, but an enemy is corrosive.
Exactly. Well, Satan sets himself up as accuser so that we end up thinking that our opponents, instead of the ones that draw us out and bring excellence, right? It's like could it be that we've looked at other Kickstarters that are running right now and said, right? And so you look at that and you say, I want that. And if you look at them and say, I'm going to hurt them because they're getting this thing that I want, that's what coveting, that's literally the 10th commandment, coveting, right? You're coveting your neighbor's goods, right? Yep. Whereas if we are, focused together on praise of God, on beauty, on truth, we learn from each other's, striving to improve, right? And I say this, I'm a fencer. I had to Fencing Bear at Prayer, my blog, back in the day, that's brought me to a lot of the work that we're doing here. I was having to figure out how to fight my own emotions in order not to give into that envious rivalry. And it's like, she's up on the podium getting a medal and I'm not, and I think I should be because we started fencing at the same amount of time. It's like, okay, go watch her, and instead of being envious of her because she got something you think you should have had, figure out what she's doing that you don't know yet, right? It's envy can be a teacher to say, I want this, I want to go there, and I want to learn from that practice and experience. So we're going to learn from all of our guests. Right, because they've done some really cool stuff, and instead of being envious of their excellence and magnificence, we're going to ask them to please help us think about storytelling and the craft. We've got a whole roster of magnificent guests tonight. Our first one is apparently ready to talk with us, so we'll bring him in a second. The legend Chuck Dixon, who is most famous for his creation of the Batman supervillain Bane, but that's of course only a very small piece of what he's written in his comics career. So we want to talk to him. We've got our friend Hans Schantz, who writes techno thrillers and is also an actual scientist, physicist, working on a wideband antenna and electromagnetism. And so he's got like the actual science and also the ability to write it into thrillers. So he's going to talk with us. Hopefully our friend Rob Crozy, who is one of our fellow Kickstarter. Hans has another story about his crowdfunding exercises. Rob is one of the ones that helped us.
The Odyssey.
Rob is one of the ones that helped us set up our Kickstarter, and he's steaming away working on his second volume in his Kickstarter project. So we hope he takes a study break and joins us. That'll be a little like surprise for us if he's able to come. And then at the end of the evening, we have magic. We promise you, it's wonderful. Card tricks with the decks of cards that we designed to go as rewards for the Kickstarter in the middle tier funding, because they're really cool decks. And Patrick Coffin, who is fellow Catholic, theologian, podcaster, magnificent work that he does in his Coffin Nation interviews. I participated in his Hope is Fuel mini course that just launched a few weeks ago. He's going to both talk with us about storytelling, screenwriting, theology. We can go anywhere, right? This is our live stream. We're here to promise you a feast of wisdom and skill training and skills with a Z. So yeah. So can I have a shout out from the green room? Is it everybody in there? Can I bring you all in? Yes. Chuck is in. Is Chuck in? Oh no, we did do the tech test, and now we're in the tech. Chuck needs to reset his audio, I think. And Casey needs to come in because she has some questions for Chuck. Meanwhile, I'll get my notebook out. So maybe we should, while everyone's fixing their tech in the green room, welcome everybody in the chats. I can hear you. Okay. Hey. Okay, hold on, Chuck. So Fred in Dragon Common Room says, I started learning Latin because I realized it allowed breaking through this exact mysterious veil. Yes, learn Latin. Suddenly all the science magic work turned into plain grounded language. Exactly, right? Understanding Latin in terms of the Germanic equivalents was life-changing. This is it. I'm the daughter of doctors, right? And my grandmother was a classics major and taught Latin and English in high school. And when doctors are talking to me, I'm their worst nightmare, because they're saying, like, for example, in my particular example, my dog Joy died in October 2020 of a mysterious ailment called pancytopenia. And I'm just like, oh, what's that? Because the doctors are saying, the vets are saying, oh, she has pancytopenia. And I'm like, okay, she has, no platelets, no red blood cells, no white cells. We don't know. She has, we don't, but she has pancytopenia. I'm like, what? And I'm like, that just means she has no blood. What are you talking about? You literally renamed the thing in Greek and are telling me that's the diagnosis? No, it's a labeling exercise. So we're writing in English, in poetry, in the crafting of music in our language, because we want people attentive to language. And one of the things we want you to do is not to be taken in by that kind of spell making, right? You will train yourself with our story to not be captured by that dragon.